Roman Reigns never asks for help. That is not who he is. That is not how he operates. The tribal chief stands alone, fights alone, and wins alone. That is the identity he has built across years at the top of professional wrestling. But on March 10, 2026, Roman Reigns needed someone. And Dean Ambrose answered. The lights went completely dark. Not for a second. Not for a brief moment that builds and releases quickly. A full sustained darkness that made 60,000 people stop breathing at exactly the same time. And then the music hit. And those 60,000 people who had been holding their breath released everything at once in the loudest, most emotional, most completely overwhelming sound that Monday Night Raw has produced in years. Because the music that hit was not just any entrance theme. It was the specific sound that belongs to one specific person. The lunatic fringe. Dean Ambrose. And on March 10, 2026, Dean Ambrose walked back into a WWE ring to stand beside his brother Roman Reigns on the night when Roman Reigns needed him most. The Shield is back. The Brotherhood is real. And Monday Night Raw will never be the same again. Stay right here because what happened on this night goes far deeper than one return and one moment, and every single extraordinary layer of it deserves to be understood completely. To fully feel the weight of what Dean Ambrose walking through that curtain on March 10th meant, you have to understand what Monday Night Raw looked like before his music hit. Because this was not a normal Raw. This was not a standard broadcast building toward a pay-per-view. March 10, 2026 was already one of the most emotionally heavy Raw episodes of the entire year before Dean Ambrose arrived. The aftermath of CM Punk's father comment was still sitting in the air of every arena the WWE visited. The wound that comment opened in the Reigns family had not closed. Roman Reigns had stood in that ring in a moment of genuine personal vulnerability that the tribal chief almost never allows in public, and the pain of what CM Punk had done was visible in a way that went far beyond professional wrestling competition. The bloodline had reunified around the situation. The Rock's emergency meeting had happened. The family was together, but together in the specific way that people are together when they have been genuinely hurt rather than strategically challenged. Wounded and unified at the same time. And on this night, the pressure being applied from multiple directions simultaneously had created circumstances that threatened to overwhelm even the reunified family's ability to respond. The numbers were wrong. The situation had reached a point where the family needed something to change. And then the music hit. Dean Ambrose entering a WWE arena does something specific to the atmosphere of a building. Experienced wrestling audiences feel it before they fully process it. Something changes in the air. Something wilder and less contained and more genuinely unpredictable than anything else professional wrestling produces arrives with him. On March 10th, that quality was amplified by everything the 60,000 people in that arena were already carrying with them. The emotional weight of watching a family they loved be attacked personally. The vulnerability of Roman Reigns and the Usos that earlier segment had made visible. The desperate, quiet hope of an audience looking for something to change the direction of the night. Dean Ambrose's music was exactly that change arriving. And the arena's response was not simply loud. It was the specific layered emotional sound of thousands of people experiencing relief and joy and the almost painful pleasure of something they had wanted for a very long time finally being real. He came through that curtain exactly as he has always come through curtains. Not performing an entrance. Not playing a character for the cameras. Simply arriving as himself in the place where his brothers needed him. Moving through the world in that completely his own entirely uncommon way that has never been imitated by anyone else because it cannot be imitated. It belongs only to him. He walked to the ring. He stepped through the ropes. He looked at Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns looked back at him. Two men who have been brothers and rivals and opponents and everything complicated in between. Two men who have shared the most extraordinary professional wrestling journey of their entire generation. Looking at each other on March 10, 2026 in the specific context of this moment that had brought them back to the same side of the same ring. The arena went quiet. Not the distracted quiet of a crowd losing interest. The reverent quiet of 60,000 people understanding they were watching something that mattered beyond entertainment. Dean Ambrose's return on this night was not symbolic. It was not the return of someone who arrives to stand at ringside and be seen while others do the work. The Lunatic Fringe has never done anything symbolically in his entire career, and March 10th was not going to be the first time. His contribution to the situation Roman Reigns was facing was active, physical, completely committed in every way that Dean Ambrose expresses himself in a professional wrestling environment. The circumstances that had created the need for his arrival in the first place required exactly what Dean Ambrose has always been when everything is on the line. The wild card. The element that no opponent can plan for because nobody has ever figured out how to plan for Dean Ambrose. His combination of physical capability, genuine fearlessness, and the specific unpredictability of someone who has never once been motivated by self-preservation creates a presence that changes the mathematics of any confrontation the moment it enters. CM Punk and the forces aligned against the bloodline on this night had no preparation for what Dean Ambrose brought. You cannot prepare for the Lunatic Fringe. The preparation does not exist. The specific moments where Dean Ambrose's presence shifted the momentum of the March 10th situation, where his involvement turned something that had been threatening to become completely overwhelming into something the Reigns family could manage, where his willingness to throw himself completely into the chaos became the thing that changed the outcome, where everything that his retain needed to be. Not clean, not controlled, not carefully managed for maximum broadcast effectiveness. Completely authentically Dean Ambrose. Which has always meant completely authentically effective in exactly the way that only he can be effective. Roman Reigns receiving that support on this night completed something. The tribal chief watching the Lunatic Fringe operate beside him in the specific way that Dean Ambrose has always operated in service of the people he considers his brothers produced a moment between them that carried the full weight of everything their shared history contains. The betrayals, the separations, the complicated years apart, the question of whether what they had built together was permanent or circumstantial, all of it resolved in the specific way that only actions in the right moment can resolve things. Words could not have done what March 10th did. Promos and segments and scheduled confrontations could not have done what Dean Ambrose walking through that curtain on the night Roman Reigns needed him most did. Brotherhood either shows up when it matters or it does not. On March 10th, 2026, Dean Ambrose showed up. The Shield is back together. The Lunatic Fringe has chosen his brother. And WrestleMania 42 just became something that nobody is fully prepared for.